I want to read today from John, the 8th chapter, the 1st through the 11th verse. Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. "Teacher," they said to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say?" They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd and the woman with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you?" "No, Lord," she said. And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." Greetings, my brothers and sisters. It is always good to fellowship and worship yet again in the house of God. Let us speak about that fellowship today. Let us speak about our love for one another as one body in Christ. A tragic situation has taken place in our community, and I want to acknowledge to the fact that it took place and a life was lost. It occurred, it happened, it took place, and it's tragic. Whether it was justified or unjustified, a life was lost. A young life was lost. The fact that a young life, a 22-year-old, was lost should grieve all of us. This life was a part of us, a child that God brought in this world for a purpose. This young life had longer for purpose. However, tragically, this young life is no more. Because it is no more, the community right now is angry. It is true that it was at the hands of our police that this occurred. I know that because it was at the hands of police that you are in fact angry. You're angry because you are not trusting of those who are to protect you. You're angry because you do not trust the ones who are supposed to protect our community, who are supposed to bring peace. You are angry because this young life was black, and the officer allegedly responsible is white. Race comes into play. For years, race has been a factor amongst police in our community. Therefore, you're angry. You're angry not just because of the incident, but because of who and what the men are who allegedly did it. However, I want to challenge you to rethink your anger. I want you to readdress your hurt and pain. I want to encourage you to feel and pray for not just the family of this lost life, but for the police officers who allegedly committed this act. I do not know what it's like to be a police officer. I don't know what it's like to have to make decisions at the blink of an eye. I want to empathize with the person, with all police officers who commit on the brink decisions. I empathize with the person who must make critical and important decisions that are sometimes life-altering. These decisions can have impact not just on the lives of criminals, but also on the lives of the officers who make them every day. It cannot be easy to uphold the peace, restore justice, and protect the community every day. Doing so can have a tragic ending that an officer must deal with, and now a community. Doing so can make all of us sad in some way, not just for the officer, but with the family that is dealing with the loss. It's all sad. However, I want to offer you the heart of Christ. I want to offer and ask you to show and demonstrate the heart of compassion. Why? Because Jesus did. In the scripture that we read earlier, we see that a woman is brought to Jesus and sought out to be punished for her sin. The thought for her to be punished was based off of the fact it was in accordance to the law at that time. Jesus was confronted with this decision and challenged to do something about it. Jesus could not ignore this situation. Though he was interrupted while teaching, he could not ignore the fact that a woman was brought and the community wanted justice. This justice, though, was costly in the eyes of the community. This justice sought to kill this woman for her sin. Jesus took the time to address this incident by demonstrating a compassionate heart. He demonstrated that no one can condemn when they have sinned themselves. He further demonstrates forgiveness in letting the woman know in verse 11 that he is not in a position to act as an accuser. Jesus demonstrates all to witness and show forgiveness by letting her go. I do not want to see the accusers appear in this congregation. I do not want to see the accusers appear in our community. I want to see more people with an understanding, compassionate, and forgiving heart that demonstrates love to all. I want to see more people amongst our congregation allow someone to go and sin no more. This is what love is. This is what forgiveness is all about. To be the accuser is not Christ-like. It does not demonstrate love, and it does not demonstrate compassion. We have police officers in our congregation. They are confronted with tough decisions daily. Maybe they have not always done their job right and are affiliated with those who are not compassionate and who may not do their job the best every day. But I want the police officers in but they are amongst us. They are part of our congregation. And I want our police officers to know that worship here, that we love you. We must love them as our brother and sister. We must empathize with who they are as humans. We must be ready to accept them as our brother and sister in Christ. The heart of Christ accepts all and does not accuse. We should not accuse the police officers in this congregation of sin based off of association. We should love them with empathy and pray for them daily. We should also pray for the family of this young lost life. We should pray for our community, that the community demonstrates the heart of compassion. Forgive the ones who committed this act and tell them to go do their job and sin no more. As we demonstrate love in our congregation, we demonstrate love in our community. As we demonstrate love to our police, we set an example for others to follow. We must demonstrate the heart of Christ to each other, regardless of what is taking place. We must love our brother and sister, whether they be a police officer in or outside of this congregation. The heart of Christ tells us to love.